Club show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood, and I am obviously back in the studio this morning. That was a nasheed that we were listening to by Batool Abu Akleen called Sing Children of the World. So I thought what I would start today's show off with is a quote that you might have heard of before. It is by James Baldwin. And this quote says, "The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe. And I'm beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality." Now, this is a quote, as I mentioned, by James Baldwin. I think it gets shared quite a bit on social media, especially in the context of Gaza. And on today's show, I thought I would dedicate on one particular book, which has been newly published, and this is called Voices of Resistance, and this subtitle is Diaries of Genocide. And in the wake of recent news that you may have been following online, a ceasefire has been called. Obviously, it's yet to be implemented, and because of what might be circling, obviously, around the media at the moment, I thought it would be quite timely to share some of the I guess stories of from this book. So I will read the blurb as always, just to give you a bit of context, and then today I'll share some excerpts of the book. And just to mention, obviously, some of the content will be quite heavy, maybe quite harrowing to listen to. So just to let you know in advance. But it's one of those things, and I think that's one of the aims of book club has always been to read books which I think just shed light on everything that is going around, both locally and globally. And also, it's and a lot of people say this about reading it. It really does build empathy, and that's both, I think, with fiction and non-fiction. Now, this book is obviously they are basically a series of diaries. So I'll read the blurb and then we will dive straight in. For 2 years, the world has witnessed image after devastating image of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Videos, photos, and Instagram reels showing blanket bombardment, cities in ruin, and entire families pulled from the rubble of their homes. Such enormity can be difficult to process, but behind each image lie ordinary lives full of hope, love, and community. In these diaries, 4 Gazan women, Batool Abu Akleen, Sondos Sabra, Nahil, Mohana, and Obaid, offer first-hand accounts of Israeli airstrikes, forced displacement, and engineered famine. These atrocities are documented alongside the everyday defiance of Palestinians, from the neighbour who fashions an ashtray from the shrapnel of an Israeli missile, to the street vendor who donates his last egg for a child's birthday cake, to the community of displaced people who pool their resources to stage a traditional wedding. Even when displaced, under fire, forced to bury loved ones, or thrown at the mercy of a devastated health system, the writers of these diaries never abandon their humanity, their individuality, or their belief in the future of Gaza. These are not stories of pity. These are stories filled with love, humour, and the beauty of Palestinian people. In the face of genocide, the existence of these diaries, like the survival of the authors, is an act of resistance. So that is the blurb at the back of this book, which is called Voices of Resistance. The foreword's been written by Gillian Slovo, and the introduction is by Carol Churchill. The book has been published by Common Press. So if you are interested in getting a copy of the book, please obviously do go ahead. And actually, there is a note at the bottom that just says that all proceeds from this book go directly to the writers and their families. So what I thought I would do on today's show is just share perhaps like the first chapter or first diary entry, so to speak, of each of the authors, and then we'll kind of take it from there. But again, just to give you a little bit information, I'll read a little bit of the introduction or the foreword to the book as well, and obviously just to note that these everything that is being shared today is obviously is based on the book of Voices of Resistance. This is not necessarily a reflection of Inspire FM. These are very much the words of people who have written this book of their own experience. So the introduction by Carl Churchill is here, and also then I think what I'll do is I'll start with a forward by Julian Slovo. Writing about the imminent publication of her new poetry collection, Batool Abu Akleen is overcome by guilt. I've written all my poems on the blood of my comrades and loved ones, she writes, on my pain, on my burnt fingertips, on the prospect of my own death. When I finish writing a poem, I look at it with tears welling in my eyes and heart. Oh God, how beautiful it is, and how ashamed I am that pain looks so beautiful. So Batool's words kick off this collection, which also contains extracts from the diaries of the writers Sondos Sabra, Nahil, Mohana, and Obaid. All are trapped in the strip, forced to move countless times under unceasing bombardment. Here is beauty indeed, not least in the honesty and spirit of these four women, and horror as well. Their diaries take us to a place where the dropping off a Wi-Fi signal is a sign that tanks are closing in, where people have developed a whole new vocabulary for describing the sounds of different bombs, and where it becomes normal for an 8-year-old to casually ask her aunt how she would like to die. So that is just a small section of the forward by Julian Slovo. I'll do the same for the introduction, which is written by Carol Churchill. We all know what's happening in Gaza, or we know something of it. Some people may not have thought about it before. Imagine the trouble started when Hamas broke into Israel in October 2023. Others know more of the history of Palestine, including, in relatively modern terms, the British Empire, Zionism, the Nakba, the founding of Israel, and the oppression and occupation that have gone on for 77 years. But what very few of us know is what it's like to be in Gaza. Though we can see it on our screens, we can't go there. For many years, it's been almost impossible to visit friends or simply visit the place like any other place, and almost impossible to leave what has effectively become a large prison. After October 2023, what we saw on our screens was heavily weighted towards Israeli families who'd had hostages taken. Their characters and suffering were individualized, while, as more and more Palestinians were being killed, Gazan sufferings were often just reported as numbers. We could learn more from Al Jazeera and sometimes from Channel 4. Even the BBC has recently begun to show what is happening as people have become more and more incredulous and appalled. But with any long catastrophe, there's a danger that those of us outside of it become numbed or distracted by the ins and outs of our own lives. Whether it's a war, an earthquake, or a famine, the watcher can begin to feel, however much they know it's true, that the suffering people are those suffering people. That is somehow not the same as if the bomb had fallen in our own street, or our own children had no water, or our own children had no water to drink. But for these four women, the ins and outs of their lives are suddenly astonishingly changed, and we can see and feel that. So that was the beginning kind of extract from the introduction by Carl Churchill. So if you've just joined, today on the show, I'm going to be talking about voices of resistance. So these are basically diary entries by four women who live in Gaza. And on today's show, I'm just going to share some of what they've written. And again, the reason for this is, as you may have heard on the news today, a ceasefire has been called. Obviously, so there'll be lots of that you might be hearing online and on social media. And I think it's important in times like this that we center the voices of those who are actually experiencing and what they were experiencing. And as that introduction just said, it's really easy, I think, when we spend a lot of time, especially if we're scrolling through certain apps and there's just image after image, video after video, there's that risk of becoming very desensitized to other people's lives. And it's important that actually we always center the experiences and just reconnect in a way which is basically human, which is real. And the best way to do that is, I think anyway, of course, to pick up a book and read, I guess, first-hand accounts of how people are feeling, what they're going through. And, as Muslims, we know, obviously, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the fact that the whole ummah being one body, and one part of it is in pain, and the whole kind of body feels it. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but there's such an important essence to do that. And even though there are so many things which are happening in other countries, whether it is Sudan, whether it's Kashmir, whether it's Palestine, obviously these, living in Britain, sometimes it can be a bit of a disconnect. So it's so important that we're able to read about what's happening, especially in the time of online information, actually disinformation. It's sometimes really hard to discern what's fact, what's basically what fiction or fictionalized information is being put out there to almost dilute the truth and dilute reality. And as Muslims, it's so important that we're always obviously holding on to truth, and we're following the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we're talking about, not just talking about upholding justice, but also putting that into action. So let's go back to the book of Voices of Resistance. So the first diary entries of this book is by Batool Abu Akleen. So each time I share, I'll obviously share a little introduction to the writer themselves. So Batool is a 20-year-old Palestinian poet and translator born and raised in Gaza City. She's a student of English literature and translation at the Islamic University of Gaza. At the age of 15, Abu Akleen won the Pajid Poetry Prize for her poem I Did Not Steal the Cloud, which was also translated and published as part of the anthology De Aqua e di Tempo. Her poem I Want a Grave was published in Penguin's Letters from Gaza in 2025. She was a 2024 poet in residence with Modern Poetry in Translation. Her poem, Gunpowder, was among the winners of the London Magazine Poetry Prize 2025, and her debut bilingual poetry, 48 Kilograms, was published by Tenement Press in June 2025. So what I'm going to do is I'll read the first diary entry that Batool has written. And this one she's dedicated to Wala, Saeed and Aria, the light in the darkness, the laughter in the midst of death. January 10th, 2025. Mornings are worrisome and painful. I, the creature who once loved mornings the most, can no longer tolerate them. I wake up trembling. Something in my heart feels wrong, like everything else around me. I wrap my head in 3 blankets, making sure my ears are covered. But before I can even hear myself breathe, the epic morning noise begins. From beyond the blankets, the sound of my younger siblings quarreling over half a piece of pita bread. My mother begins to rebuke them. You want to embarrass us in front of the neighbours? Everyone's flour is running out. You're the only ones shouting about it. My head is filled with the desire to leave, to escape this cosmic hell by any means necessary, even if leaving means death. My body is tied down, my joints knotted by fear. I remember my grandmother, who used to relive my fear after every Israeli aggression with a little olive oil and many prayers. Today, my joints are bound tighter than ever, and my grandmother is not here to comfort me. The funniest thing of all, and I don't know if it's really funny, is that the fear I'm experiencing isn't a fear of death or annihilation, but rather a fear of living life. It's a fear of the phonetics exam I'm taking in the coming days, of my haphazard Italian learning, of my ability to complete anything, of missing opportunities, of falling behind my classmates at university, of the possibility of gaining or losing weight. Death has never frightened me. It has only restricted me, casting black, petrified sadness on my heart. But this morning, my fear of life grows and grows, and with it, a great anger at my inability to overcome fear. I cry under the covers and wish for the return of my grandmother with her tin of olive oil. We are displaced. My mother, myself, and my 4 younger siblings, Hadi, Taqwa, Ragad, and Maryam, living in a tent in Dar al-Bala. This 4x4 meter room serves as our living area, bedroom, study, and workspace. Behind a small partition is our kitchen and dining area, 2 meters by 4. Our tent is made of leather with an iron frame and waterproof triangular roof. By this measure, we might be considered aristocratic among the displaced. My mother is making tea. I no longer get angry about my family waking up at 6 o'clock, disrupting the only hour of the day when I might have found some peace. While still under the covers, I begin to read from my phone, as I do every morning, the one habit my knotted joints haven't hindered. My mother places a cup of tea next to my head and brings me to ghoreba, a type of shortbread made from flour, sugar, and ghee. Today is my sister Maryam's 9th birthday, her second during this genocide. My mother has baked the ghoreb to celebrate. When Maryam turned 8, she cried every day, asking, "Where's Dad?" Recently, she started to say, "I want to see my grandmother. Why did they kill her?" In my entire life, I've never loved any biscuit more than the ghoreb. Ghoraiba. I've always identified with it. In Arabic, its pronunciation is a variation on the word strange. Its texture is so hard that as soon as you take the first bite, the rest of the biscuit begins to crumble all over your clothes like white snow. Fragile like negotiations, pretending to be tough like I do every day, melting in your mouth just like my toughness melts when I notice the buzzing of Israeli drones above our heads. Ghoraiba can only be eaten once it's cold, cold like this tent. My mother sits beside me, watching, and hoping her ghoraiba will alleviate the depression that's been eating me up for days. I have no idea how to deal with this depression, or how to dampen its severity even a little, so I retreat again under the blankets and continue reading on my phone. Before 10 minutes have passed, little Rania, or as I like to call her, Naria, meaning fiery, enters our tent, followed by her mother, Walla. Naria is 4 years old. Walla is 24, just a few years older than me. Walla's family comes from Al Majdal in historic Palestine. Her grandparents were displaced to Jabalia north of Gaza City, where she grew up as a refugee. After getting married, she moved to the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood before the genocide displaced her along with her husband Saeed and his family. Walla's parents and siblings remain in the north, divided, like me from my father, by distance and by this genocide. Walla and her family live in the tent next to ours, but as our relationship has grown stronger, our families have spent more and more time together, sharing food, drink, sadness, and joy. Sometimes Walla even spends the night with us. With 8 people in one tent, the noise grows louder, soon matched by noise from the surrounding tents. Close to 900 people live around us in this camp. Oh God, how I hate these sounds. By now, the option of getting up has become a must. So I get up. My limbs are still knotted as I tidy my blankets to go to wash my face and brush my teeth. But recently, and by recently I mean for the last year and a few months, I've been having memory problems. As soon as I reach the small wash hut beside our tent, I realize I've forgotten my toothbrush and have to go back to retrieve it from the empty pea tin I've set aside for pens and other random things. The wash hut is our own construction, built from old pieces of wood and blankets left behind our former neighbours in the displacement camp in Rafah, before they returned to their homes in Al Qarara, which had not yet been bombed, and resumed our displacement journey here to Deir al Bala. The hut stands beside our tent and contains 250-litre water barrel and a stove which we use for cooking during gas shortages. In one tent, the ground is covered by a kind of plastic rug. Here in the hut, the soil is exposed. I pour away the murky water that's collected in the bowl under the barrel's plastic tap and begin to wash my face. The water is salty and cold. It jolts me into alertness, much like a bullet. Perhaps my depression is due to the fact that I couldn't sleep till after midnight last night and woke up at 5 a.m. I love little Naria, but today in particular, I don't want to see her. I don't want any more noise. I say to myself, why not try one of those techniques psychologists always claim will improve your mood? I attempt some cardio exercises copied from a YouTube video. I don't really remember the last time I tried something like this. After 10 minutes, I no longer feel depressed. My mental pain has been overpowered by the physical pain of stiff limbs from sleeping on barren dirt. I prepare to wash my body, heating water on the stove because the baker Khalil, who usually heats water for us, is busy preparing trays of chicken. Chicken has been absent from the market for months. We thought we would never see it again. My family will have to wait another week until prices drop a little, but the smell drums on the wall of my stomach as soon as it enters my nose. Children are milling around me. My mother is trying to bake a birthday cake for Maryam. I put on my Bluetooth headphones, which work in one ear and not the other, and set up a phonetics lecture to run at double speed because my laptop battery only lasts an hour and a half. After 30 minutes of loading and reloading the lecture with this crappy internet connection, I haven't learned a thing. I'm relapsing again. My anxiety has returned worse than this morning. I try wrapping my head in blankets, but nothing stops this feeling. Oh God, how it hurts my lungs, threatening to burst through my rib cage, my heart exploding in my chest, my whole body in knots. I call all over to my mother, desperately wanting her to recite some prayers and ruqyas over me, but she is crying too. My neighbour will learn my sisters are trying to soothe her. I'm not even able to ask what's wrong. I can't leave my mattress. It's as if this mattress is a prison cell. The noise of the camp is suffocating me. My body doesn't relax until everyone is asleep. Now, in the dead of night, the only noise comes from the medical centre affiliated with Al hospital, dedicated to maternity care. And then there's another sound too, echoing inside my head. like the flat line on a heart rate monitor. So those were, I've just shared a few excerpts of the first diary entry by Batool Abu Akleen from the book Voices of Resistance. So I'm going to carry on reading some of the excerpts from this book, some diary entries of the other writers. So these are women who are currently living in Gaza. Voices of Resistance has been recently published by Comma Press. And we will continue, and I'll share some of my own thoughts and feelings about obviously what I'm reading. And the next three writers that we will hear from are Sondos Sabra, Nahil, Mohana, and Obaid. So these are basically first-hand accounts of Gazans who are currently experiencing displacement, and obviously just what you've heard is it's just maybe a deep insight into kind of the daily almost routine and feelings of people and who are living in Gaza. So we are heading over to a break. Join us back in a few moments, and we'll continue with Voices of Resistance. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Omar Regan.
This is Moses the Comic.
This is Rizwan Hussein.
This is Baba Ali.
This is Nabil Abdul Rashid, and you're listening to Inspire FM. Inspire yourself to listen to Inspire FM on 105.1.
Perfect venue for your perfect day has to be the Barn Tea Green at Stony Lane, where natural beauty blends with rustic charm. With the stunning barn conversion, breathtaking garden room, private bridal suite, and landscape gardens set within the picturesque Hertfordshire countryside, this unique and charming venue's ideal for intimate nikahs, mendis, weddings, other celebrations, or business events for up to 200 guests with ample parking. For details, call 01582 800 222. Visit thebarnteagreen.co.uk or check out our Instagram at thebarnteagreen.
Enjoy quality and tasty 100% authentic halal Chinese and Thai food from Gao Express. Brought to you by the team behind Tops Pizza in Luton. Choose from all your delicious Chinese and Thai favourites. Then order for delivery or collection from Gao Express in Wellington Street, Luton, Marketplace, Stevenage, and now also on Nightingale Road in Hitchin. Open daily midday till late. Find the number or order online at Gao, that's GAO, express.co.uk, or like Gao Express on Facebook.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Had an accident, a bump, trip or fall? Then you need Claims Specialists, your first choice for accident claims. The Specialist Claims Company on Dunstable Road in Luton. With excellent access to expert solicitors and on a no-win, no-fee basis, Claims Specialists use their 30 years' experience to help get you the best compensation possible. For injuries at work, taxi, PCO and private hire incidents, road accidents and vehicle damage, medical negligence, plus rented housing disrepair. In short, when you need to make any claim, click on claimspecialists.co.uk or call 01582 733 222.
For specialist immigration services, the people to talk to settle a family member in the UK, M&K Solicitors. For all your legal solutions for family, personal injury, clinical negligence, civil and property law, M&K Solicitors. Internationally recognised M&K Solicitors for local legal services you can rely on. Call 01582 732 503 or click on mnksolicitors.com. Your first consultation is free.
بسم الله قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الدعاء مخ الإبادة. The supplication is the essence of worship.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम किरण है। कोट कश्मीर ऑर्फन रिलीफ ट्रस्ट मेरा एक खूबसूरत घर है जहां मेरे साथ सैकड़ों यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों की तालीम व तरबियत और पुरसुकून माहौल में परवरिश हो रही है, और ये सब कुछ आपके तावन से मुमकिन है। अल्लाह से दुआ है कि अल्लाह करीम आपको सदा सलामत रखे और उम्मीद है कि आप इसी तरह अपना प्यार, मोहब्बत और तावन जारी रखेंगे। कोट UK office 0300123774 court.org.uk.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the book club show on Inspire 105.1 FM. My name is Imrana Mahmood. On today's show, I am sharing excerpts of the book Voices of Resistance. This is being written, and they're basically diary entries by 4 women who were living in Gaza. Their names are Batool Abu Akleen, Sondos Sabra, Nahil, Mohana, and Obaid. The book has been recently published by Comma Press. In the first half of the show, I read a little bit of the introduction to give a bit of context to the book itself. These are basically first-hand accounts that these 4 women are experience of displacement and basically starvation. There's lots of different, I guess, real life, real moments that are shared in this book. And I was kind of saying, I guess one of the reasons is, you'll be hearing online potentially at the moment and on the news of a ceasefire that's been called in Gaza, and it's really about today centering the voices of Palestinians, and it's so important that we're able to do that, especially through books. So I'm going to continue sharing some of the extracts from this book. So the second set of diary entries have been written by Sondos Sabra. So she is 25, holds a bachelor's degree in English literature from the Islamic University of Gaza, and is a founding member of Shagaf Youth Initiative, which organizes a discussion of literary works. She's a translator and writer. Her writing has appeared in Mondois, The New Statesman, and Arab Lit Quarterly. Her extracts from her diaries have been performed by the actress Yusra Rosama at the Barbican Theatre, London. Her piece, We Kill Terrorism, was read by the actress Maxine Peake to a crowd of 15,000 protesters outside the 2024 Labour Party conference in Liverpool. So again, just like with in the first half of the show, I'm going to read the first diary entry. So Sondos has dedicated this, and she's written to Omar, the kind soul who held on to meaning when words broke down under the weight of loss. To this wide world couldn't hold. To those this wide world couldn't hold, so heaven opened its arms for you. To the ones who left, but whose voices still guide us, laying down the ink of survival and building a shelter out of feeling. These words are a testimony of resistance and of the fact that we are still here, writing, loving, and pushing to live. So the title of this first diary entry is called Rain and Olive Trees, and it was written on 7th of October 2023. It's raining, and I love rainy mornings. October rain is eagerly anticipated by Palestinians, especially my father. He's on tenterhooks for it. People consider the rain a sign from Mother Nature, signaling the start of the Jad al-Zaytun season, the olive harvest, in which the bond between the land and the people is renewed, and families gather to pick olives in an atmosphere of cooperation and joy. My grandfather, Salim Khalil Sabra, was born in 1897, before the establishment of Israel and before the British Mandate. He spent much of his life planting his land with olive and prickly pear trees. My family name, Sabra, comes from the Arabic word for the prickly pear tree and our reputation for planting them. My grandfather established our orchards over 80 years ago, and my father and his brothers inherited them. My grandfather lived a long life, nearly 100 years, and when he passed away in 1994, his sons pledged to care for the orchards as if the trees were their own children. The olive tree is like Palestine, my grandfather used to say. Its roots burrow deep into the earth. Its branches are a symbol of peace. Its oil is the elixir of life. Despite all the colonizers' attempts to steal his land, the Palestinian clings to every last inch of it, facing the Israeli thirst for annihilation with an even more steadfast determination for life, dying 1,000 times, if necessary, only to rise back up with a newfound love for the homeland. Every October, our family, from the youngest to the eldest, prepares for the Jad al-Zaytun season. I have a big family, 12 sisters and 2 brothers. This year, my father has bought a new ladder, and my 8-year-old brother Mahmood has fetched a large, elegant glass bottle to fill with olive oil and gift to his school friend Aisha. Yes, in Palestine, we give olive oil as a gift and a symbol, a present for a friend, a reward for success, a blessing for a bride. As for myself, I try to convince my father to buy a new tea kettle, but he insists on keeping the old one, so charred by years of fire that it's now completely black. My father cherishes his things. He's the same with his relationships. He always says, "The dearest things I own in this life are my land, my library, and you, my children." I'll let you in on a secret. Throughout my childhood, I felt jealous of my father's library. I used to chide him. "The dearest things you own in this life are me, me, and me, then your books. I'll donate all your books to my school if you don't accept that." "I'll donate you," he replied jokingly. "Or better still, I'd sell you and buy some more books with the money." During the Jadal Zaytun season, the task of picking olives is as tiring as it is enjoyable. Tasks are divided among family members. One spreads mats on the ground, another picks olives from the low-hanging branches, another climbs a ladder to reach the higher branches, and yet another prepares breakfast. The higher branches and yet usually skiving the bulk of the work to sip a cup of tea and wait for the others to join them. Others use machines or even chemicals to harvest their olives, but our family still picks by hand, a method insisted on by my late grandfather. My father says this method is gentlest on the tree and yields the richest oil. But the highest quality olives are those which fall on their own, or with a gentle shake of the branches. These are sent to be picked rather than pressed. These are sent to be pickled, rather than pressed. Mats under the trees will catch everything that falls, including large, old, and sick leaves. These leaves will be separated from the olives with a large sieve or by the waft of a palm frond. But all of this is to come. Our visit today is largely prepared for the season. We won't start picking today until everything is ready. This morning, my 4-year-old sister Fatima wakes up at 5:30 and doesn't allow anyone to go back to sleep. The whole family has to wake up once she's up, and no one dares to break this rule, not even Oscar the cat. We prepare for the busy day ahead, loading the necessary items for the season into the car: ladder, ground mats, cooking pots. We haven't even had our morning coffee yet. We'll have it on the land when we arrive. In the car, I receive a message from my writer friend Mahmood al-Basyuni, reminding me of our upcoming meeting. Mahmood and I first met in 2020 at an event commemorating the anniversary of the passing of the poet Fatwa Tokan. Over time, our relationship developed, and in 2023, we launched a creative writing initiative for students of Al-Daraj Neighborhood Girls' School. Now, Mahmood is publishing a sequel to his first novel, and we are planning to launch it at the YMCA on Al-Jalaa Street. As soon as we reach our land, explosions echo in the distance, rattling off in time to our quickening heartbeats. What is this? Is it a new war launched by Israel? Didn't they have enough bloodshed in previous years and escalations? But these rockets are coming from Gaza. Is it a mistake in the resistance missile system? My questions are interrupted by the screams of my little sister Fatima. I hug her tightly and try to calm her down, but I can't seem to ease the shock. I know this fear well. I lived it throughout my own childhood. My lungs can't forget it. The smell of gunpowder still lingers within them. This is what it's like for Gazan children. Alongside the alphabet of letters, we learn the alphabet of wars. I was only 8 years old when my own heart was tested on this subject. We were in the Arabic language test hall when explosions began to thunder around us, creeping closer and closer to my school. The words war, escalation, and conflict weren't yet in my vocabulary. I didn't understand the subtle differences between them. We poured out from our desks into the rows between exam tables, then into the corridors of the school screaming and stumbling. Panic gripped everyone that day. I saw my teacher crying and trembling with fear. Then I knew it was serious. That was in late December 2008, when Israel launched a bloodthirsty war in Gaza, killing over 200 Palestinians on the first day alone. In that war, Israel used white phosphorus for the first time, despite it being banned internationally. They even used it in an attack on the UNRWA-run Fahura school, killing 40 civilians. They have reused it in all subsequent wars on Gaza. On the day of that attack, I wanted a hug from my mother. I remember needing it so badly, so today in the orchard, I don't leave Fatima for a moment. Quickly, we decide to pack up and return home, to leave the harvesting for another day, when things have calmed down. On the way back, passers-by exchange a rumor about one of the prominent Hamas leaders being assassinated by Israel and Hamas launching rockets in response. This wouldn't surprise me. Israel has a long history of assassinating leaders, figureheads, and even academics and poets like Hassan Kanafani. No Palestinian is safe. The very existence of any Palestinian, man, woman, or child, is unsettling for Israel. My brother suggests we go grocery shopping and buy a week's load of emergency supplies in case we're not able to leave the house for a few days. We do just this, grabbing everything we think we might need: meat, frozen food, cheese, and a large quantity of vegetables, chickpeas, and fava beans. My friend Mahmood and I postpone our meeting. Uncertainty prevails. For someone like me who's mad about planning, this chaos is disturbing. Life is full of surprises at the best of times, but Gaza's surprises never end, and they're all unpleasant. So that was the first diary entry by Sondos Sabra from the book Voices of Resistance. And again, I think it's just so difficult to comprehend what people in Gaza, what people of Palestine have not just been experiencing in the last 2 years, but as is alluded, obviously, through the book, the past 77 years. And again, you know, for those of us, especially who are born in Britain, it's so essential that we understand the history of empire, and we understand, because it's not only because everything is interconnected. So when we talk about Palestine, for those of us who are South Asian, who have links to obviously India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, for example, in terms of the stories of partition, you know, it's so important, I think, regardless of age, that we read more about what happened. And I think sometimes the best way to do that is to try to find those first-hand accounts. And that's why I think a book like this, Voices of Resistance, is so important. I think it's important for now, and it will be, inshallah, you know, something that in years to come, that when once we see a free Palestine, you know, people will come back to this book, and they will, you know, look through, and they will really understand actually what people were living through at that time. But again, you know, the fact that this is called Voices of Resistance, and the idea, I think, of this book is not to somehow have feelings of pity or despair. It's very much about how do a people who are undergoing such horrific circumstances, you know, how do they cling on to hope and faith? How do they just continue living their life and having these moments of just celebrating, I guess, even the few blessings that they have, while also acknowledging, obviously, everything that's going on around them. So I'm going to go on to now the third author of this book. So this is a diary entry. I'm not going to read the first of their diary entry in here, but what we have is Nahil Mohana. I will give an introduction to this writer, and then I will read a little bit of one of the chapters or diary entries they've written. So Nahil Mohana is the author of the novel No Men Allowed, the short story collection Life in a Square Meter, and 6 plays including High Pressure, which received the 2008 Abdul Mohsin Al-Khattan Prize. Austin, which received the 2008 Children's Culture Award, and Lipstick, which is produced by the Royal Court Theatre, London. Her writing has appeared in the AGNI Online, Literary Hub, and the Washington Post. Extracts from her diaries have been performed by the actress Maxine Peake at the Barbican Theatre, London. Now, one of the diary entries by Nahil is called A Letter to My Daughter, and this was written in 23rd January in 2024. My dearest Habiba, I apologize for bringing you here. I apologize for not relocating to a country that respects human dignity. I turned down several offers of fellowships for artists and writers for institutions abroad. I honestly believe we were safe. I did not know that safety had to be bought or planned for. I thought it was a given right. I apologize for your displaced childhood, for the hours of boredom, and for your constant scrolling through your phone, remembering and mourning the beautiful moments of the past. I apologize for the fact that displaced families have taken shelter in your school, messed up your classroom, and played on the swings you used to enjoy with your friends. I apologize for what you've had to experience: your bedroom burning, your toys scattered, your clothes stolen. You should be somewhere else, spending the best days of your life thinking about your future and hanging out with your friends in amusement parks and shopping centres. I apologize because you are in the wrong place in the world, and it is my fault. My little daughter, They talk about deals, and I tell them, to hell with all your trivial deals. The only deal I want now is safety. On your last birthday, I got you a big map of the strip, but now I can't find our house on it. Maybe we will redraw it together in another place and time. I fold this letter and hide it among my belongings, not daring to give it to Habiba. So that is one of the diary entries by Nahil Mohana. I think when I read this, it had such a profound effect on me, I think, as a mother who has two daughters. The idea of having to write something like this, or being in a situation that would cause me to have to think about these things. I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like when you are a parent and your almost sole purpose as a parent in life is to protect your child, to protect them, to make them feel safe, to basically be there for them in terms of, when they're going through emotional turmoil. I really can't imagine what it must take to be able to, do that. Yeah, and I think maybe kind of on that point, the four writers and the four women that have written these diaries, it would take a massive amount of, I think, not just resilience. I think there's something really, really inspiring. Of course, also really, really sad. But the fact that throughout the past couple of years and years of, I guess, in terms of the, history and the generational trauma, I guess, that people have to live with, for them to still be able to find that that drive and that, I think, catalyst to continue writing and understanding how important it is to plant seeds. And that is mentioned in the introduction as well, this idea of, despite whatever situation we find ourselves, the importance of still holding on to hope and understanding and hoping for a better future. And again, it reminds me, of that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that even if the day of judgment were to descend upon us, and you're holding a sapling, that you still plant it. And it's such a powerful, hadith, and the fact that we are definitely in times that we must continue to do that, and it's even the small actions that have those really massive ripple effects. And it might be that we don't feel those ripple effects now. We see that they're beginning, and it could be much further down the line where it actually has the impact that we're hoping to have, and it becomes a wave of change. Inshallah, and that's the best thing to really hope and pray for. So one of, I think, the last bits that I will read on the show, and if for any reason you've only just joined us, I'm reading some extracts of Voices of Resistance, Diaries of Genocide, and these have been written by four women who are living in Gaza. So this next diary entry has been also written by Nahil. And these are almost like a list of things that they hope that they will be able to do once a ceasefire takes place. So I'm just going to read it. The main focus, so what it says is, the main focus of discussion about the things we will do once a ceasefire comes in effect. The list of overheard wishes is long. 1. We will say goodbye to the endless queues at bakeries. 2. We will have electricity. 3. We will get rid of the monopoly of merchants. 4. We will be relieved from the high prices of basic resources. 5. We will free ourselves from prayer clothes as an official uniform during war. 6. We will replace our worn-out banknotes. 7. We will stop walking long distances and instead go back to putting up with the arrogant taxi driver who annoys us with his heroic stories about securing diesel during the war. His fare will become 2 shekels instead of 7. 8. We will solve the problem of slow internet. 9. I will embrace air conditioning in the summer. 10. We will say goodbye to firewood, embers, grease, and lung conditions and welcome the return of gas. 11. We will smoke cigarettes and shisha again and be spared from all the cursing in our streets as a consequence. 12. We will eat meat, chicken, shawarma, maftool, eggs, fresh vegetables, juices, and ice cream. 13. I will kiss my husband because I miss our moments together. 14. Our children will return to school and to discipline. 15. Families will reunite. The South will join the North and we will see our loved ones again. 16. We will go back to drinking high quality coffee sold for 14 shekels instead of 60. 17. We will no longer be devoured by drones. The quadcopter will be out of our lives. 18. We will mourn the martyrs and the missing with honor and dignity. 19. We will go back to walking in the streets without fear of shrapnel or fear of going out and never coming back. 20. We will eat grilled corn on the promenade. 21. We will bathe under a shower. 22. We will light the streets at night. 23. We will stop following the news. In fact, one of the women offers to donate her TV. 24. We will go back to washing machines instead of hand washing. 25. I will bury my son who remains under the rubble of the house. So that was a list that was written by Nahil, Mohana, what they would hope to do once a ceasefire comes into effect. You would have heard on the news that a ceasefire has been agreed, and inshallah, this is something that will be able to be implemented, regardless, I guess, of what that looks like and what a ceasefire has looked like in the past, years. Inshallah, it is some respite that the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, really, really need and hope, and have the chance to go back to some form of normality. So we have about 5 minutes left of today's show, and there is one more writer who I am going to share a diary entry from. So this is Ala Obaid. She is a writer and mother of 3 children. She has held a number of positions in various NGOs and culture institutions in Gaza, including education officer, creative writing teacher, and culture center coordinator. Alaz co-authored the books Writing Behind the Lines and Disturbing Retrievals, both of which document the experiences of Palestinian lives throughout the current genocide. She has published several articles in the New Arab. Excerpts from her diaries have been performed by the poet and film director Hind Shafani at the Barbican Theatre, London, and by Zara Sultan MP at the Belgrade Theatre, Coventry. So one of her diary entries, this is was written on November 20th, 2023. My youngest brother Mohammed still hasn't appeared. My older brother Jamil has begun going to the Netzorim checkpoint every day, waiting for 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for any news of Mohammed. I've tried contacting journalist friends. After connecting with colleagues in the West Bank, I was able to reach a Red Cross officer named Abi. He filled out a form detailing every aspect of Mohammed's abduction. He told me, maybe in 2 weeks we'll know something, adding, I feel your pain and I'm truly sorry. Mohammed loves wearing white. He's a great photographer. He has a wonderful sense of humor and is arguably the most handsome young man in our family. He expresses love better than anyone. My dear, I swear I missed you. This is how Mohammed always welcomes me, along with a long hug. We've often sat together, enjoying a cup of coffee and exchanging funny stories, hours passing as if they were minutes. Before the genocide, whenever I visited my parents, Mohammed would postpone all his plans and outings just to spend time with me. I used to tell him, go run your errands. And he would reply, no, you're more important. I remember when my daughter, Rusal, fractured her arm and the doctors told her she needed surgery. Mohammed came straight to the hospital, running to meet me. He whispered, she's going to be okay. The moment he embraced me, I broke down in tears and he cried with me. From Mohammed, I learned to tell those I love that I love them. From Mohammed, I learned to create moments of love with those I hold dear. Dearest Mohammed, your story isn't over yet. So that's one of the more shorter diary entries that I've shared, which is written by Ala Obaid. And again, I think this one is a reminder that there are countless Palestinians who are still held and detained, who've been abducted, who haven't seen their families in many, many years. And I think it's so important that the whole, I guess, reason for this show is to center the lives and experiences of Palestinians who are people who are living in Gaza. And the fact that it's, alhamdulillah, really, really good news that a ceasefire has been agreed to today, and hopefully it's something that will be implemented. And in any form, that might be implemented. Obviously, we don't know. Yes, obviously, we can look at, historically what that usually means. It's not usually a complete ceasefire, but I think any respite is just important, inshallah. But as for those of us who want to show solidarity to Palestinians, who, especially as Muslims, when it is our job to seek justice, to uphold justice, to always be on the side of those who were oppressed, and to do our best to, I guess, lend our voices to them. And, buying a copy of this book, Voices of Resistance, which is by Common Press, is definitely one way to do that. As I mentioned in the first half of the show, all proceeds from this book go directly to the writers and their families. And, as Muslims, we understand charity is a huge part of our deen, but actually this isn't necessarily even a form of charity. This is basically saying that these writers have found the will, determination, the resilience, the hope and the faith to share their stories with us. And I think the least that we can do is really recognize that by supporting them through this book. So it was Voices of Resistance, Diaries of Genocide, and I will be back, inshallah, in a couple of weeks with a new book and a new guest. So please, in the meantime, keep me in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum.
एक वक्फे के बाद साबरा हुसैन पेश करेंगी दीनी मालूमात पर मबनी प्रोग्राम दीन और दुनिया। सुनते रहिए इंस्पायर FM।
Inspire FM.